Saturday night. Two words that meant something different in Britain for almost 30 years. Not a night out, not a trip to the pub. For millions of families, Saturday night meant one thing: television. 20 million people, sometimes more, watching the same program at the same moment, laughing at the same jokes, holding their breath at the same time. Every single Saturday. Streets fell quiet. Pubs emptied early. And in living rooms across the country, families gathered around the only screen in the house. It's difficult to explain to someone who grew up with streaming. Saturday night television wasn't just entertainment. It was a national ritual. To understand why Saturday night mattered so much, you need to understand the week that came before it. In 1965, Britain still had a 6-day working week. Most people worked Saturday mornings, half-day if they were lucky. Saturday afternoon meant shopping, errands, the football pools, mowing the lawn if the weather held. The weekend was precious because it was short, and Saturday evening was its crown jewel. And here's the thing that changed everything. By 1970, over 90% of British homes had a television, but almost all of them had just one. One screen, one living room, one choice for the whole family. 3 channels. That was your universe. BBC One, BBC Two, and your regional ITV station. 3 choices. And on Saturday night, the competition for your attention was fierce. Saturday on BBC One began with sport, and sport meant one program: Grandstand. First broadcast in October 1958, Grandstand would run for 49 years. Every Saturday lunchtime, it was there. Racing from Newmarket, rugby from Twickenham, show jumping, swimming, snooker, whatever was in season, Grandstand brought it into your living room. For many fathers, Grandstand was sacred. The racing results, the football scores, the classified check at 16:45. That moment when the results came through. You could hear the country holding its breath over their pools coupons. The football pools were a national obsession. 8 score draws for a fortune. And when the teleprinter started chattering out the results, time stopped. Sheffield Wednesday, 2. Leeds United, 2. That mechanical rhythm was the sound of hope. Grandstand finished around 5 o'clock. The day's sport was done, and now, across Britain, a transformation began. The serious business of Saturday night was about to start. Between 5 and 7, British households prepared. Baths were run. Best clothes were considered. Saturday tea was served early. Fish and chips from the shop, or sandwiches with the crusts cut off if company was coming. There was a rhythm to it, an anticipation. Children were bathed and put in pajamas. Adults changed out of their day clothes. Even if you weren't going anywhere, Saturday night felt like an occasion. Living rooms were tidied. Extra chairs were brought in if relatives were visiting. The best biscuits came out. And slowly, gradually, the family assembled, facing the television, waiting. And then, at 6:15 on BBC One, it began. The Generation Game. Bruce Forsyth. That chin, that charm, that effortless command of an audience. When Forsyth walked onto that stage, Saturday night officially started. Didn't he do well? Nice to see you nice. The catchphrases became part of the language. The format was brilliantly simple. Pairs of contestants, usually parent and child, competing in games, learning skills from professionals, then trying to repeat them, usually failing. Gloriously, hilariously failing. But the real magic was the conveyor belt, the prizes parading past at the end. Cuddly toy, fondue set, teas made. A generation of British people can still recite those prizes. Cuddly toy. The Generation Game peaked at over 20 million viewers. 20 million! That's almost half the adult population of Britain watching one programme at one time, every Saturday. And then there was Morecambe and Wise. Eric and Ernie, the double act that defined an era. They had moved to BBC from ITV in 1968. It was one of the biggest transfers in television history. And on BBC One, Saturday nights, they became untouchable. The formula was consistent. Sketches, guest stars who were gently mocked, musical numbers where Eric and Ernie couldn't quite keep up, and underneath it all, a genuine warmth. You could tell they loved each other. Britain could tell too. The bedroom sketches became legendary. Eric and Ernie in their striped pajamas, sharing a bed, bickering like an old married couple. It was innocent, it was funny, and somehow it was utterly British. Their Christmas specials became national events. Christmas 1977. 28.5 million viewers. 28 million. The largest audience in British television history. Half the country watching two men in their pajamas. And it's good night from me. And it's good night from him. The Two Ronnies, Ronnie Barker, Ronnie Corbett. From 1971 to 1987, they owned Saturday nights. The news desk format, the musical finales, Ronnie Corbett's rambling monologues in the chair, and sketches that became part of British culture. 4 candles. Corbett would sit in that chair, start telling a story, and somehow never quite get to the point. Digressions within digressions. And the audience loved it. The longer he took, the funnier it got. The Two Ronnies gave you value. 90 minutes of television, sketches, serials, music, monologues. When it ended, you felt you'd had a full evening's entertainment. Because you had. After the variety shows came the film. The big film. For many families, this was the climax of Saturday night. The films were never new. Couldn't be. Cinemas had exclusive rights for years after release. So Saturday night films were often 10, 15, 20 years old. But for television audiences, they were premieres. For children, this was often their first encounter with classic cinema. The Wizard of Oz, Singin' in the Rain, The Great Escape. Films that parents had seen in cinemas, now shared with the next generation in the living room. Children would often fall asleep before the film ended, carried up to bed while the credits rolled, the sound of the television fading as they climbed the stairs. That memory stays with you. But Saturday night wasn't just entertainment, it was war. BBC versus ITV, the battle for viewers. Program schedulers were generals. They studied the enemy's lineup, moved their strongest shows to counter threats. If ITV put up a big film, BBC would respond with a variety special. Every Saturday was a battle. ITV didn't surrender Saturday nights easily. They had their own stars, their own variety shows, their own films. And crucially, they had advertisements, bigger budgets, flashier production. In homes across Britain, negotiations took place. Mum wanted the film. Dad wanted the sport. Children wanted anything with adventure. And with 1 television and 3 channels, compromise was essential. The radio times and TV times became strategic documents. Studied on Thursday when they arrived, Saturday's page was examined like a military map. What's on BBC? What's on ITV? What time does the film start? And then it ended. Saturday night didn't fade away, it stopped. Closedown. The announcer would read tomorrow's schedule. The national anthem would play, and the screen went dark. There was something definite about it. Saturday night had a boundary. When television ended, you went to bed. The ritual was complete. Lights went out across Britain. Millions of people had shared the same evening, watched the same shows, laughed at the same moments. Tomorrow they would talk about it. At church, at the pub, in the shops. Everyone had seen it because everyone watched. Sunday morning. The conversation started. Did you see it? Can you believe what happened? That bit where he dropped the pot. 20 million people with the same reference points, the same memories, created together, apart. By the mid-1980s, things were changing. VHS recorders appeared in living rooms. Suddenly, you could record programs, watch them later, watch them again. The schedule began to loosen its grip. Then came satellite. Sky Television launched in 1989. Suddenly, there weren't 3 channels. There were dozens, then hundreds. The shared experience began to fragment. Today, the average British home has access to hundreds of channels. Streaming services, catch-up, on demand. You can watch almost anything, almost any time. Saturday night is just another night. The Generation Game ended its original run in 1982. Revivals came and went. Morecambe and Wise left the BBC for ITV, and somehow it was never quite the same. Eric Morecambe died in 1984. The Two Ronnies said goodnight for the last time in 1987. It's tempting to be sad about what we lost. The shared experience, the national conversation, 20 million people laughing together. But families still gather, people still watch together. The programs are different, the technology has changed, but the impulse to sit with people you love and share a story, that hasn't gone anywhere. For 30 years, Saturday night in Britain meant something specific. The working week was done, the television was on, the family was together, and for a few hours, the whole country shared the same experience. Didn't we do well?